Hello, and welcome to Motivation Speaks with author Angel Ferguson. Motivation Speaks with author Angel Ferguson is a extension of Hope and Truth magazine and our morning inspiration segment. If you would like to subscribe or view our magazine online, please visit hopeandtruthmagazine.weebly.com. You can connect with us via Facebook, Google, Twitter, as well as Instagram. Our mailing address is 7402 North 56th Street, Suite A and B, Tampa, Florida 33617. On our last podcast, we were talking about accountability and our relationship with God. We were in the book of Jeremiah 2:11, talking about how God delivers us from certain situations, but yet we do not reference him. We have forsaken the Lord our God and put our hope and trust in things that are of no profit or no value. We have given ourselves unto the creation rather than the creator. And I wanted to continue before we move forward, backing up to 2:11, have a nation changed their gods, which are no gods, but my people have changed their glory for that which doeth not profit. And now we are going to pick up, let's back up to the 29th. Wherefore will ye plead with me? Ye all have transgressed against me, saith the Lord. In vain have I smitten your children, they received no correction. Your own sword hath devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. O generation, see ye the word of the Lord. Have I been a wilderness unto Israel, a land of darkness? Wherefore say my people, we are lords, we will come no more unto thee. Once again, we want to put the creation before the creator. All things were made by him and for him. Verse 32, can a maid forget her ornaments, or a bride her attire? Yet my people have forgotten me days without number. In the commentary it says, Jeremiah reveals the intense grief and sorrow of God because of his people's unfaithfulness. They had done the unthinkable in forgetting the one who had redeemed them from Egypt and cared for them in the wilderness. In everyday layman terms, that's just like you take your time and you care for someone that's really, really sick and can't do for themselves. And when they get better, they forget the time you took to take care of them. You won't get a thank you. You won't get a nod. And I know that we've all been there. That's why we have to learn to do things unto the glory of God. But this is what the children of Israel did unto God when they were in Egypt, and their labor became so coarse and so hard, and they began to cry and they began to pray, and God heard their cry. And he prepared Moses to go to be a leader to deliver them. And he gave instructions, and he brought them out of Egypt and into the wilderness. But they complained at that point as well. Why have you brought us out here to die? Well, did you not remember that you were crying out unto God about the hard task and the labor that was put upon you? Well, their complaint was, yes, it was hard and we were treated unfair, but we had food. That's almost like being in a very, very abusive relationship and saying, I know that I am mistreated, but at least I have a bed to sleep in. Peace of mind is better than any materialistic item upon this earth. So Moses leads the children through the wilderness, and sometimes when I am going through some things, I am reminded of the wilderness. And I am reminded that sometimes I myself am in the wilderness too long because of my actions, because of my grumbling, and because of my mumbling, because I am not following directions, because it's somewhere along the line I have taken my eyes off of the focus of God, and therefore I am in this wilderness too long. I have been reminded that I could have been out of the wilderness, but because of my actions, because of me, because of Angel, I am still in my wilderness. This is what happened to the children of Israel. Their complaining was their delay. Their disobedience was their delay. And Moses was so frustrated, but God reminded him that they're not complaining against you. They're not disrespecting you. They're not taking their focus off of you. They were taking their focus off of God. They were complaining against God. Moses was just the vessel. Our complaining can hinder us. It can delay our deliverance. It could delay our breakthrough. It could delay the blessings because we complain. It goes back to accountability. God was accountable to us and he just delivered us. And in turn, there are some things that we must do on our part. One of them is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy mind and with all thy soul. Another one is to put no other God before him. Have we done that? Verse 32, can a maid forget her ornaments, or a bride her attire? Yet my people have forgotten me days without number. Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love? Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways. Also in thy skirts is found the blood of the souls of the poor innocents. I have not found it by secret search, but upon all these. We teach other people our ways. We teach other people how to gain things and get breakthroughs, and God blesses us. And when we turn and say we slack up coming to service, or our graceful, peaceful nature has turned to uppity, like we got it going on, and we teach others those habits. We teach others that if I stay in God's presence long enough to get what I want, then I can get it and leave. That's I beg of you not to do that. If you are doing that, I beg of you to stop. Because here's the thing. You are teaching people how to abandon God. And here is the lesson. If God chastises you, the one that you have taught this lesson to, if they continue to see it, even though they've seen the chastisement, their chastisement will be worse. You cannot see the correction of your brothers and your sisters, and you yet continue to follow and do what they have been chastised for. We must be careful what we do in our lives and what others see of us, what we are teaching others. We must be very, very careful. We may think that people are not paying us attention, but they really are. They're watching our character. They're watching our lives, our moves, our conversations. They're watching our faith. Be very, very careful. It goes back to our subject, accountability. What are you teaching this generation? On the first part of the previous podcasts, that was our question. What are you teaching this generation? Have I taught this generation about the ways of God? Have I led them in truth? Did I teach them about God? Did I tell them who created the earth? How he formed man and woman? How God replenished the earth? I am accountable for the things that I share. I am accountable for my actions. I'm accountable for what I do, and you are accountable for what you do. But when you step into living for Christ and in a leadership role, you are accountable. In 35 it says, "Yet thou sayest, because I am innocent, surely his anger shall turn from me. Behold, I will plead with thee, because thou sayest, I have not sinned. Why gaddest thou about so much to change thy way? Thou also shalt be ashamed of Egypt, as thou wast ashamed of Assyria. Yea, thou shalt go forth from him, and thine hands upon thine head, for the Lord hath rejected thy confidences, and thou hast not prospered in them." If we prosper, if we have pride and think that my hands were able to do this without giving reference to God, we will not prosper. In everything that we do, we must reference and give thanks to God. If you have a very, very successful career, give honor to God. Not that you know it all and you have all his knowledge, because without him you could understand nothing. But give reference to him. I know without a shadow of a doubt that I would not be anywhere near where I am, or I would not know anything had it not been for God. Without him opening things for me and giving me knowledge and understanding, I owe it unto him. There is nothing that I have done in my life that I can take the credit for, and neither can man. All credit goes to God. I really, really just love the book of Jeremiah. And as we are talking about accountability, I was taken over to Deuteronomy, and I always mess up that word, the 28th chapter, 1st through the 14th verse, the blessings of obedience. And I'm going to share this with you in its entirety, because there's also curses of obedience. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee, and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be thy fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kin, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way, and flee before thee 7 ways. This goes back to accountability. Walking in obedience. There is blessings in walking in the obedience of God. The 8th verse goes on to say, the Lord shall command the blessings upon thee in thy storehouses, and in all that thou settest thine hand unto, and he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. The Lord shall establish thee an holy people unto himself, as he hath sworn unto thee. Listen to this. If thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God, and walk in his ways. And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. And the Lord shall make thee the head, and not the tail. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath, if thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after, here's the catcher, other gods to serve them. We can have all these things if we walk in the obedience of God. There is blessings in being obedient, but we cannot put anything before God. But just as there are blessings if we walk in obedience, there are curses if we do not walk in that obedience. If we become disobedient, if we put things before God, there are consequences. Verse 15, the curses of disobedience. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kin and the flocks of thy sheep. Yes, the curses are the opposites of the blessings. If we put another God before our God, the living God, the one and only God, creator of heaven and earth. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly. Listen to this, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. We cannot forsake God. And the way we forsake him is in our heart, is when we turn our heart from God. Don't turn your heart from God. We may not understand things. Yes, we will get sidetracked. But the Holy Spirit will come and it will tug. And I encourage you that when you feel that tug, to open up the door of your heart to return unto God. But do not put other gods before him. No materialistic things, no job, no family. And the way we do that is we will say, I don't have time to go to Bible study. I don't have time to visit the sick. I don't have time because I got to go to work, because I got to go do this and I got to do that. That is putting other things before God. Don't find yourself guilty in that. The 21st, the Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. If you notice, there are more curses than blessings when you forsake God. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thy feet shall be iron. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. It is a blessing for it to rain. And if God sees fit, that rain is natural and in spirit. So be very, very careful when you do not follow the commands and are disobedient. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them. Now, if you remember that verse 25 mirrors verse 7. If we walk in obedience, he says, the Lord shall cause thine enemies to rise up against thee, to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee 1 way, and flee before thee 7 ways. That's if you are walking in obedience. But if you do not, that very same thing will be done unto you. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. There are so many curses within the book, within this book, the 28th chapter. And then when you go over to the 29th chapter, it says, keep the covenant. Keeping the covenant. Even when temptations come. Great signs and miracles and wonders. You shall keep the covenant of God. What I like about this, it says, I'll start at the first. These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, beside the covenant which he had made with them in Horeb. And Moses called unto all Israel and said unto them, Ye have seen all that the Lord did before your eyes in the land of Egypt unto Pharaoh, and unto all his servants, and unto all his land. The great temptations which thine eyes have seen, the signs and those great miracles. Yet the Lord hath not given you an heart to perceive, and eyes to see, and ears to hear unto this day. Meaning they had no real concept of the things that God had done just for them. It didn't happen before their time, and it did not happen after their time. He says, I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes are not waxen old upon you, and thy shoe is not waxing old upon thy feet. Ye have not eaten bread, neither have ye drunk wine or strong drink, that ye might know that I am the Lord your God. Can you imagine? 40 years in the wilderness, walking through trees and limbs, walking through creeks, and their clothes did not wither, neither did their shoes give way. Yet, when they came into the land of plenty, when they came into the land promised unto them, when they got their deliverance and their blessings, they forsook God. And they served other gods of the land in which they entered. They forgot about the God that had brought them through all of that, who fed them, who kept them clothed with shoes, who shielded and protected them, that no disease hit their bodies and no sickness. And they forsook God. They took their eyes off of the Creator. And they saw something else that was pleasing to the eye, what everybody else was doing, and they forsook God. How many times have we done that? And when ye came into this place, Sion, I'm at the 7th verse, 29 and 7, and the king of Heshbon and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us into battle, and we smote them. And we took their land and gave it for an inheritance unto the Reubenites, and to the Gadites, and to the half tribe of Manasseh. Keep therefore the words of this covenant, and do them, that ye may prosper in all that ye do. Ye stand this day all of you before the Lord your God, your captains of your tribes, your elders, and your officers, with all of the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and thy stranger that is in thy camp, from the hewer of the wood unto the drawer of thy water, meaning everybody, that thou shouldest enter into the covenant with the Lord thy God, unto his oath which the Lord thy God maketh with thee this day. Now, what is that covenant, you might say? The covenant at Mount Sinai, which is also Horeb, God made a covenant with Abraham and renewed it with Isaac and Jacob. His covenant with the Israelites, made at the foot of Mount Sinai, encompasses the two basic principles discussed in the above-mentioned article. God alone establishes the promises and obligations of his covenant, and humans, us, are expected to accept them in obedient faith. The main difference between this covenant and the earlier one is that God outlined his promises and responsibilities, accountabilities, before ratification. We're going to start the discussion of what God's covenant was and is. And because this was a part of a series, and we will finish it up in the next podcast. This is a 3-part series on accountability, our accountability. Let us be reminded of what we teach this generation and the generation after us, because they are paying attention. Remember never to put another God, material things, idols, things that we worship, before God, because He is a jealous God. He is the living and true God. And He declared, you shall not put another God before me. He's not having it. He will remove it. It could be your job, and you praising that job, and you giving that job more time than you are giving God. Or it could be a vehicle. No matter what it is that you're putting before God, He will eventually remove it. And if He removes it, and then you find yourself in trouble, can you call on that materialistic thing to get you out of trouble? No. We're going to stop right here, because I really, really want to get into the covenant with the Israelites into the next podcast, and that will be the end of this particular series. We thank you for joining Motivation Speaks with author Angel Ferguson. If you would like to connect with us, please send us an email at angel@angelfergusonswordprocessing.com. You can mail us a few lines. We'd love to hear from you and get your correspondence that way as well. Our mailing address is 7402 North 56th Street, Suite A and B, Tampa, Florida 33617. You can also subscribe to Hope and Truth magazine. You can view the magazine online at hopeandtruthmagazine.weebly.com. You can subscribe to the magazine to get an actual printed copy via mail. A yearly subscription is $36. Please email us at angel@angelfergusonswordprocessing.com. We thank you for visiting with us during this podcast, and we will finish up this 3-part series, Accountability, in our next podcast. Thank you for staying with us. Motivation Speaks with author Angel Ferguson. Stay encouraged, encouraging others along the way.